Hi everyone, welcome to the final session of our Teacher Professional Development Series for 2023. My name is Alondra and I am a Senior Programs Officer at Teachament2Fish. Today I am going to be talking about experiential learning. And if you haven't done so, please write a quick intro in the chat with your name, school, and your country. And well, in this session, I really want to hear from you. So please, if you have any questions or any comments at any time, write them in the chat so we can have a conversation. Katie is with me today. You're going to see she's going to be posting some things on the chat. So hi, John from Ghana. And well, with this session, we are closing our celebration of Global Entrepreneurship Week. So it's really good to have you all here to celebrate with us today. If you are just joining, please introduce yourselves. And well, in the next 60 minutes, our main goals are: first, to help you understand what experiential learning is and why it is important for both educators and for students. We are also wanting you to, at the end of the session, be confident in designing and reviewing your own experiential learning activities and to understand how experiential learning supports the development of 21st century skills like critical thinking, teamwork, and problem solving. So how does these objectives sound to you? Let me know your thoughts in the chat. If there is something that you're particularly interested about the session today, please write it in the chat. And well, to achieve those goals, here is our agenda for the next hour. First, we are going to start by defining what we mean by experiential learning. And we're going to explore its significance through Kolb's experiential learning cycle. Then we'll discuss why experiential learning is not just a buzzword, but it is a proven method for enhancing engagement and critical thinking. So we are going to connect it to Bloom's taxonomy and explore its benefits for both students and educators. Then we're going to see how embracing experiential learning changes the role of educators, so all of your roles. And next, we're going to look at a variety of experiential learning activities. I'm going to give you some brief examples. So these concepts are going to be coming to life, and then I'm going to guide you on how to choose the right activity for your classroom. And finally, I'm going to introduce you to two exciting programs that we have available at Teachament2Fish for free. And they are designed to bring experiential learning into the heart of education. I know that right now we have a person that has never been part of our programs, but if you have, or if you haven't, write it in the chat because we would love to know. So throughout this webinar, as I said, I want it to be really interactive. I want you to be really participating in the chat. So even though at the end of the session, we're going to have like a Q&A session where we're going to open the floor for any questions or thoughts that you might have, your participation is highly encouraged during this hour. So any questions, any comments at any time, please write them in the chat. I see that we have one raised hand, but if you can write down in the chat your comments, so that way we can keep the session moving. So yes, if you just joining, please introduce yourself. And now let's get started. So we are going to start with a quick icebreaker. So I would love to read your answers on the chat about the following question. So please read the question carefully. The question is, what skills or knowledge do you believe that cannot be fully learned through theory alone? So what is it that you cannot learn only by knowing the theory. So please tell me in the chat. I'm going to give you few seconds to answer the question. You can say the first thing that comes to your mind. It doesn't matter if you're not completely sure. It is okay. Just write in the chat what skills or knowledge you believe that cannot be fully learned through theory alone. So Rosemary says, cooking any recipe. That is a really good one. That's a really good activity that you can read the recipe, but until you cook it, you will be you won't know if you really learn to do it. We have Mahmoud, collaborative skill. That is also a really good one. Anybody else? Like if you're finding it like hard to think of this, building skills, that's also a good one. Maybe also riding a bike. It might be really difficult. I'm not the right person because I don't know how to ride a bicycle, but well, I'm the right person because I've read about riding a bicycle, but I don't know how to do it because I haven't done it. Driving a car. Yes, John, you said driving. Wilberforce also said driving a car. Fenice said writing and driving skills. Dancing, driving, football skills. So these are all really good. Swimming, yes. And it could be really dangerous if you do it without any practice. So you have mentioned skills that you are not able to fully understand if you just read a manual or if you listen to a lecture. And to really understand, really be mastering the skills, you need to experience those activities to actually learn how to do it. So I think this is going to give you an idea of where we're heading today. So what is experiential learning? Well, it is really important to understand that experiential learning is often mistakenly to describe any practical team-based activities. So this experiential learning goes beyond this. It is not just learning by doing. Experiential learning is about making sure that individuals have meaningful experiences that contribute to their learning journey. So it is about having experiences that become valuable lessons. We're going to talk today a lot about experiences. So going back to our previous question, when one of the options was to drive a car, one of the things that you mentioned. So when you're learning to drive a car, it is not just about understanding the traffic rules from a book, or just get behind the wheel and do it, or feeling the pedals under your feet, navigating the road. There is so much more, and handling unexpected situations. So experiential learning in driving involves the entire process, from understanding the theory to apply it in real life world scenarios. And now let's see in a really simple way how learning happens. So we're going to use the called experiential learning cycle to do this. And David Kolb is the mind behind the experiential learning cycle that we're about to see. He is an American educational theorist and psychologist, and his cycle, it provides a structured approach to understand how learning can happen from any experience that happens to us. So it can happen both formally in your classrooms, but also informally with any daily life experiences. And it all starts with an experience. So this is the doing phase, where we actively engage, or maybe something unplanned happens to us. For example, like driving, it is a concrete experience. Swimming, it is a concrete experience. You mentioned computer skills. Those are concrete experiences that you have. And then after you experience something, you take the time to reflect. So this part, imagine it like this, like you are replaying a video in your head that not only focuses on what happened, but also think about like all the feelings and all the reactions that you were having at the time that you were going through that experience. So if we continue with the example of driving a car, it's like thinking back of when I started driving and how much did I have to push the brake to stop the car? Like how much pressure did I have to pull? Like the feeling of that the pressure on the brake to stop the car. Then from the reflection, we start to understand and then draw some conclusions from that experience. So in driving, it could be how soon should I brake before I get to the red light? And how much do I have to push the brakes so the car stops when I want it to stop? So I observe before in this step, I observe like how much pressure I should put it to completely stop the car, but then I'm understanding in a situation what is it that I have to do with that thing that I observed. And finally, we adapt our future decisions and our behaviors based on what we have learned. For instance, like next time you're getting closer to a red light, you will know at what point you have to start braking the car, and you will do it, like repeat the situation and keep like testing your conclusions. Like I was right the time before. Oh, maybe I should stop a little before. So these are the 4 steps that are required to have experiential learning. And if you have any questions, write them in the chat. So also, please tell me in the chat, who is familiar with the phrase jumping to conclusions? Like who has heard this phrase before? And tell me yes, no. Just write it in the chat. Katie, you have heard it. Yotna, you have also heard this phrase. Belinda as well. So yeah, it's a pretty Barnabas, Judy, it's a pretty famous phrase. So this phrase highlights the importance of completing all the stages, like all of these 4 stages. And if we skip any of them, then our learning, it might be incomplete. Like you jump from the experience to the conclusions, so you don't go through all of it. And maybe you don't fully understand, or maybe you understand what is going on, but then you don't apply it in the future. So maybe you stop here. So it is really important to go through all of this. So an example for jumping to conclusions, maybe consider a situation where you, an educator, you are observing that maybe you have a student that every single day they participate on the class, they are always like engaging with you, and then one day, the next day, like the student, when they come to the class, they stop participating, and maybe they start talking to the students, like other students, instead of paying attention to you. So if you don't take the time to explore the student's reaction and really understand why that student might be acting that way, then you go to the conclusion, and maybe your conclusion is, well, the student is not interested anymore in school. They are doing it on purpose. Maybe they don't want to learn anymore. And maybe that's the way, that's until you get there. But if you start looking into the students' attitudes and start talking to the student and observing the student, then you might discover that disengagement could be linked to personal issues or maybe some challenges at home. Maybe the student is like really going through a difficult time that is affecting their ability to focus in your classes. So understanding, then you can adapt to the situation, adapt your approach to the student, and provide additional support or resources, and create like a more compassionate, a more understanding learning environment. Maybe this is something that you are already doing. And learning, that is learning. Like, it's a cycle where you learn from experiences by observing, by reflecting, by adapting, by testing your conclusions, and then using that learning in the future and checking like, okay, my learning is correct, I can keep on this. Maybe I need to adapt some things. I might test it, and then it's like like you keep doing it again and again. So then we have different levels of learning. And I'm going to show you Bloom's taxonomy, which is like here, like a hierarchy of learning. It shows those different levels that we have when we learn. So first, like at the bottom, we have like the remember stage, where learners can recall specific facts. Like, for example, they can tell you the numbers from 1 to 100 by memory. Like, that is no problem. 1 to 100, they know it. Then we have the other stage, which is understanding stage. Here, the learners comprehend the meaning of the information. Now they understand why, if they add one apple to another apple, why now they have two apples. So it's not just about memorizing, but is understanding the concept behind it, behind the numbers. Then we transition to the application stage. Here, learners can utilize information in a new but in a similar situation. So they extend their understanding beyond apples to maybe oranges or watermelons. So they apply the same counting principles to different things, maybe pencils or the pen, and that is applying. Then we have the analysis stage, where learners can dissect the known and also identify relationships. And this means that now they can subtract different fruits while maintaining like a fundamental understanding of the counting process. So they know that apple, orange, fruits, if I take one, I still have one fruit. So they are analyzing the situation. Then we move up to the evaluate phase, where learners critically examine information and then they make some judgments. So they might assess like which fruit combinations are more challenging to count, or evaluate the effectiveness of different counting strategies. So let's think you have a bunch of grapes. So they start thinking, should I count the amount of grapes as just one fruit, or each individual grape as a fruit? So they are like evaluating the situation and checking like what is it that they can do it, and what is going to be the most effective way to count the fruits. And finally, on top of the higher order thinking skills, it's the creating stage. So here, learners use the information to craft something new. So this might involve like coming up with maybe a new method for counting fruits, or maybe inventing a game that incorporates counting as a core element. So by using the experiential learning, like through the Kolb cycle, we are going through all the learning levels that are outlined in Bloom's taxonomy. So using that part, like the 4 experience and understanding, by using that circle, we are going all the way up. And we are fostering a comprehensive and deep learning experience. So why is experiential learning good for students? Well, there are so many reasons, and I'm going to tell you some of the best ones. So experiential learning actively involves students in the learning process. So it injects a sense of engagement and memorability. When the students are able to touch, to feel, to experience different concepts for firsthand, it transforms their learning experience and it makes it more compelling, and they're encouraging, like it's an encouraging, sustained focus and an investment in education. The second reason why is that with experiential learning, the students, they move beyond memorization. Remember that memorization was like at the bottom of that pyramid? So now they understand and remember concepts better than when they can see the real world applications. So for like we just saw the example with the fruits, and with the fruits and the numbers, you memorize from 1 to 100, and it is easy. Like 1 to 100 is something that you do it repeat like many times, so it becomes easy to memorize the numbers from 1 to 10. But think about like if you teach history lessons, then how hard like to remember all the dates beyond the period of the exam. So here we're moving beyond that memorization, and there's a better understanding of the concept and the concepts, and then an improved knowledge retention. Another reason is that experiential learning often involves problem solving, decision making, and critical thinking. So the students are encouraged to analyze situations, to make decisions, and then to reflect on the outcomes. So it fosters the development of essential skills that are applicable in various life scenarios. And finally, and a really important one, is that experiential learning provides students with skills that are highly valued in the professional world. So experiential learning mirrors real-world scenarios, and it prepares the students for challenges that they might face in their future careers. And that is great for students. But then I was like, what's the part for the educators, for the teachers? So here are some good reasons of why experiential learning is good for educators. First, we have increased teacher or educator satisfaction. So engaging in experiential learning, it can make teaching more enjoyable for educators. So when you see your students that they are actively involved, that they are excited about learning, that can enhance your job satisfaction. We also have professional growth, which is implementing experiential learning strategies that requires you to continuously be developing your teaching methodologies. So it is really a commitment to growth, and it's going to enhance your professional skills, and it's going to keep you updated with contemporary educational practices. And also, it is going to challenge you to think creatively. So it's not only the students that are going to be developing creativity, but it is you when you're planning a lesson. And this creativity is not only going to stay in this lesson, but you will see that it will start moving into other aspects of your teaching. So you're going to be fostering a more innovative and dynamic classroom environment. Another reason is that it builds a positive classroom culture. So experiential learning, it fosters this positive culture where the students, they feel encouraged to explore. They feel encouraged to ask questions, to collaborate. So if you notice in your classroom that when you're asking a question, just a few or nobody raises their hand, then this is going to be really helping you to make them all like be in a space where they can answer the questions, they can propose different things, and you're going to be having a more harmonious and comparative class dynamic. And the last reason is that by engaging in experiential learnings, learning, the teachers can build a stronger connection with their students. So there is a lot of collaboration happening in experiential learning activities, and that is going to create a more interactive and a more supportive relationship between teachers and students. And that is all really great, but what does it mean in reality for you? How is your class going to be changing? Well, it is going to transform your role. So you are going to transition from being the expert and the expert that comes to the class and that tells them, this is what it is, and this is how we're gonna do it, in case you're doing it like that. But it's gonna transit to a more facilitative role. And this significant shift in power dynamics, it moves the educators from the traditional sage on the stage methodology to becoming more a guide on the side. So this means a move from passive to more active learning for the students. Also, the focus shifts towards fostering skills that enable independent learning among students. So experiential learning, it encourages a more learner-centered approach that it does demand flexibility and responsiveness from you. And you will have to adapt your content and the process to meet the diverse needs of the learners and align with the topics that they identify as relevant or that you identify as relevant. And finally, we know that in every country in the world, I think it's a general situation, educators have an overwhelming workload. And at this point, you might be thinking that if you bring experiential learning to your courses, it will mean investing a lot of time, investing a lot of resources. And while you will have to invest some time into preparing the activities don't have to be something that is completely out there, that cost money. And we're going to see next, like which type of activities you can do. And also, it's really important to say that if the students, they're not enjoying the learning, and that if 5 minutes after you told them something, they saw it, they memorized it, but then they forget it, then they're not the only ones that are having a bad experience. I think about how that would make you feel, that you spend hours preparing a class, the student memorized everything, but then they forgot about it. Like, how does that make you feel? So yeah, we're gonna see some different types of activities of experiential learning. If you have any questions, please write them in the chat. And these activities, they come in many shapes or forms. So some activities can be done indoors, some can be done outdoors, and the group sizes, they can vary. So the first example is outdoor education. So here the activities, they happen in an outdoor setting. So it can go like from taking a walk, to camping, or some team building exercises outside. And you can set the objective. Like normally the objective of these activities can be to foster environmental awareness or teamwork, problem solving, attention to detail. So depending on what the activity and how you prepare it, then you can have different objectives for the session. We also have role-playing and simulations. So in this approach, the students, they take specific roles and they engage in simulations that mirror the real world, like real world scenarios. And here, normally, the objective when you do an activity like this is to cultivate critical thinking, decision-making, and then some empathy. Any questions so far? We're going to move to the next one, which is debates and discussions. And here, structured debates or discussions on relevant topics, they're really important because they form another facet of education. And it not only can enhance communication skills, but also critical thinking and the ability to articulate ideas effectively. And then we also have problem-based learning. So here, the students, they're going to tackle complex real-world problems that normally they do them in small groups. And the main objective is to develop problem-solving skills and then to promote collaboration and encourage independent learning. So these are some examples of activities. You see, it goes from taking a walk and noticing what they see, reflecting on it, to having a debate with your students about some topic. So it really can vary. And then, because it might be hard to know the right activity that you can choose. So when you're starting to prepare for it, one of the most important things is to understand, why are we doing the activity? This is where it begins. Like, why are we doing it? You have to identify the objective of the activity. Is it because you want to do environmental awareness or teamwork? Like, what is it that you want with this activity? Or maybe that they learn some history from your country. And then once you have the objective, then you have to think, okay, what is the process that you expect your students to learn from? So to decide from this, you need to choose an activity that is going to reflect like what is the objective that you want. And then when you're planning the activity, it's also really important to have a debrief and a review process. So it's really important that the phase of debrief and review, which is like reflection, is as like the same amount of time that you gave to the activity, you give it to the reflection phase, because that is when learning is happening. So it's not just about giving the students amazing experiences, but that they can process the experience and hopefully they get some lasting learning. So I see a question about what are the challenges faced in experiential learning activities. Well, the first challenge is this part, like, how do I choose the right activity? What is it that I should be doing? So for this, I recommend you to follow the following steps. So first, you're going to think about what it is that you want your students to learn. So you can identify what problems are existing already, or maybe you have a set of objective in your school curriculum and you want them to really understand that concept. So when you're identifying that problem, then you define your objective based on what is going on the problem, or the what you want them to learn. You define the objective of the activity, and then you will have to be creative and plan the activity. Also, a challenge might be if you, let's say we have the history class and you have no idea how you want your students to learn one certain period of history in your country. Like, it is a challenge to think, but follow these steps. Okay, I want them to learn history from this. That is my objective. And also think about what has happened before, like maybe in years before, told them, learned it, memorized it, and nothing else happened. So reflect on those past experiences and define your objective, and then be creative right now we have technology. There are so many things that you can find in the internet. So if at the beginning you're really unsure about which activity you can do, I really recommend taking a look at the internet, seeing what is out there, and from there prepare your own activity, adapt it, and include that time of reflection for the students. So maybe what you decide is, okay, we can go to the museum. So you go to the museum, the students see things, but don't leave it there. Like when you come back to the classroom or maybe like outside of the museum, ask them like, what do you see? What do you feel? What did you feel when you were seeing that? What did you learn? Like, how do you relate this to what you have seen right now that is happening in the country? Things like that. So they can get this moment for reflection. Or maybe they cannot go to the museum, but what if you create a museum in your classroom and you print just a few things and you put them like in a time frame, and they can go and see what has been happening, and then you ask them to reflect on that thing that they just saw. So just here, one class, you can do many different things. And I see Enetrina says that experiential learning helps even curriculum developers to allocate, assess, and facilitate curriculum materials regarding to the student's experience context. Yes, it can be used in any type of situation, but remember to do this part. First, define what is your objective, because then you're going to be able to define what comes next, like what type of activity. And maybe you're already doing like some of these steps, and maybe you're already doing all of these steps. So that is great. Continue doing all of these steps, because now you know that you're part of those educators that are promoting experiential learning. When I was preparing for this session, I was remembering something, and I want to share with you, because I think it's an activity with really low cost, but for like really reflects experiential learning. So I want to share this story. I have a bachelor's degree in political science, and a big part of my education was to learn the important political theories, like what they did, the work of the political theories, like Aristotle, Machiavelli, Thomas Hobbes, like so many authors that I had to learn for my undergrad. And I remember that I had this teacher that for her final exam, she used an experiential learning activity. So on a table, she placed some cards facing down. So each had a name of a political theorist. And then she also put some cards with current news on the table, also facing down. So the students, we would have to come to the table and choose randomly a theorist and then also a piece of news. And what we were asked to do for that final exam was to analyze that piece of news with the point of view of that theorist, like that contemporary political situation, what would have been like, analyze it through the lens of that author. And it's been now, I think, almost 10 years. Oh, I think it's been a while since I finished university, but I still remember the activity. I remember the theorist that I had, the news that I had to analyze, and I remember my argument. Like, I remember what the author would have said about what was happening in the country that I was checking the news on. So if we look at it through the Bloom's taxonomy, like the hierarchy of learning, this activity took me on a journey through all the different levels, of learning. So it was not just about memorizing the fact, like, oh, this author says this, but it was about understanding, then applying, analyzing, evaluating, and then creating a completely new document that reflected what I was learning. So this was like the pinnacle of cognitive skills. And this type of activity that my university teacher did is what we call a case study, which is another type of experiential learning activity. And that happens when you do an in-depth analysis of real or hypothetical situations. And this activity enhances problem-solving skills and encouraging critical skills. So what I want to say with this story is that make experiential learning practical for you and your students. It doesn't have to be a grand spectacle, a big show in every lesson. There are some cost-effective ways to bring experiential learning to your classrooms, but it's all about using your creativity. And maybe it is doing a science experiment, or maybe is doing some activity that encourages your students to voice their opinions more, to raise more than their hands more. So it doesn't have to be part of every lesson in every class, and you don't have to invest a lot of resources. Like my teacher, my professor, she just printed some things, but you can write it down, like depending on what you need. You don't have to invest a lot, but you do need to be creative. And at Teach Mentor Fish, we believe in the power of experiential learning to transform education. And we have 2 programs that embrace experiential learning to teach young people business and life skills beyond the traditional classroom setting. So the first program that we have is the School Enterprise Challenge. And this one is a hands-on experience. So students, they will go beyond that theoretical knowledge of what a business is, like what they think of a business is, but they will create a real one. And it is a free program that is open to primary and secondary schools around the world. It really fosters entrepreneurship and then supports young people to develop life skills like teamwork, leadership, problem solving, and they do it through different activities, different experiential activities. Like the first one we have here, like some students, they are doing a resource assessment around their school, which means what is it that we have in the school? So they are using their critical skills, their analysis, they're analyzing the situation, and then they brainstorm a business idea. What is that we can do with what we have? Then the students, they go and talk to real business owners and potential customers, and they develop and strengthen their communication skills. Also, they do their market research. So different activities that not only life skills, but business skills, they learn how to do it. And finally, the students manage a real business and they make some sales. So this is what the students go through when they participate in the School Enterprise Challenge. And in this program, we provide you, the teachers, all the educational resources that you need to guide your students to come up with that business idea. And so they run their own business, school businesses. So we provide you the resources, then you go and you do the activities with your students. And the students, they experience the thing and then they reflect on the activities that they've done. So the School Enterprise Challenge, it has a lasting impact on the students. It promotes financial literacy, business acumen, and one of the things that we really see is that it improves in confidence and prepares the students for success. So if you want to participate next year in 2024, again, it's free. Please express your interest, join the waitlist that Katie just shared in the chat right now. So if you're interested in hearing more about it, in joining, please go to that link and put down your details. Then we also have a second program, which is Enterprise Adventure. So the Enterprise Adventure is an app for young people that are between 13 and 19 years old. So in the previous one, we for school, so we go to the teachers. Here in the Enterprise Adventure, these young people, they do it all themselves, and they develop their skills. And the objective of this program is that they're going to start creating businesses that change the world, but that also make money. And this mobile app and website is guiding the young people step by step to plan and launch a sustainable business that can help their community and generate that money. So the Enterprise Adventure, it enhances students' understanding of business principles by bridging that gap between theory and practice. So it cultivates an entrepreneurial mindset that encourages creativity and adaptability. So if you're interested in your students, maybe if you have kids joining, please ask them to register, or you can register on the link that Katie just shared on the chat. And well, these are our two programs. So if you have any questions about them, please email us. You can see here we have our emails. And well, at the beginning of the session, we discussed things that cannot be fully learned through theory alone. You mentioned cooking. We talked a lot about driving. You also mentioned dancing, swimming. Now I want you to reflect after having this session. Can you think of a specific lesson or a unit from your teaching subjects where experiential learning could enhance your students' understanding? So if you already know, please write it in the chat, because I would love to see what you have thought during this hour about how to bring experiential learning to your classroom. And then let me see if I have missed some things. So someone said floating and sinking in physics. Yes, and you can do many experiments to show the students that they can definitely learn. Like if they imagine it, it wouldn't be the same as doing it. So that's a good one. Anybody else thought immediately about something that you could be doing? Dancing. Is that, if that's the lesson that you're a dancing teacher? Also verbal and nonverbal cues in poetry and narratives. Yes. Yes, I used to write a lot of poems when I was a kid, and that really develops your creativity. That is also a really good one. Well, that is really great. We're coming to the end of the session. So please ask any questions that you have. I think we have 5 minutes to answer them. Or if any comments. I know that some of you, I recognize some of your names, so I think you're participating in the School Enterprise Challenge. If you want to write in the chat, or Enterprise Adventure, if you want to write in the chat, if you found that we are actually delivering experiential learning through the School Enterprise Challenge or Enterprise Adventure, please let us know what has been your experience. Riddles, that is also, yes, that's a good one, because you can read them until you start writing it, and that's when you really understand, and it helps to learn other things as well. So are there any questions? Thank you, Gaudencia. I hope I said your name right. You said that teach them to fish is important for you as educators because it helps you to promote a deeper understanding, self-efficacy, and the ability to apply knowledge beyond the classroom. So we are really happy to be part of that journey of you with your students. And thank you, Wilberforce. Yes, experiential learning is vital in the 21st century to acquire skills. John, you're asking, can we get the presentation slides? We're going to be sharing the recording with you, so don't worry about it. You're going to get all the information. And about saving document, if you can write us an email, Katie, can you please tell Andrews our email so we can check into his documents so we can support you. Any other questions, any comments? Can we get a certificate? Yes. So I'm about to get there. So really great work. I'm really happy to have had you here. You've been really good sport participating. And before we finish, Katie's going to share with you a link in the chat. And I ask you to please provide a feedback about today's session. We really want to keep improving the sessions for you, to keep supporting you in any way we can. So please let us know your feedback, and so we can keep improving. If you can do it as soon as possible so you don't forget it, that would be great. Thank you so much, Arumugam. And Wilberforce, yes, we'll be sharing this session. And thank you, Jyotsna. So yes, please go to that link and let us know your feedback. So about the certificates, next week, we're going to be sending a link to your email with a quiz to test your knowledge from today's session. It's a really short quiz. It's really easy. And well, in the quiz, you are going to test like what is it that you learn, and after you complete the quiz, you will get your certificate of attendance immediately. So yes, please check your email so you can get that certificate. Thank you so much, Gaudencia. Paul, also thank you a lot. I say every school needs to take part. I hope everyone that is here and is not part of our programs, we are going to send you the links again. So if you didn't get have a time to go to them or copy, no worries. We're going to be sending you the links, and we're also going to be sending you the recording. And yes, there are so many benefits to this program. If you want to bring experiential learning to your classroom, really the School Enterprise Challenge is an amazing opportunity for you to do it, because we will be guiding you step by step. So thank you so much, Belinda. Yes, we'll be having more webinars in 2024. So if you want to join the waiting list, you will be hearing all about it. And thank you so much, Patience. So that is it for today. We are going to be sending you those emails. And please, if you have any questions, reply to the emails, and we will be really happy to support you. So this is it. I hope you have a great day, a great weekend, and I hope to see you soon. Goodbye.